All right, I'll say this again, calling to order the June 28th, 2021 meeting of the Signal Mountain Town Council. We'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we'll have a brief moment of silence before we head into the roll call. Okay. Can we have a roll call?
Vice Mayor Susanna Murdoch.
Here.
Councilmember Vicki Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Andrew Gardner.
Here.
Councilmember Dan Landrum.
Here.
Mayor Charles Poss.
Here. All right, I understand we don't have any minutes to approve, so we'll move on to the next, which is citizens' opportunity to address council. Do we have anybody? We do. If you will come up and state your name and address and let us hear what you have to say.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Miller. I live at 16 Whispering Pines Drive. This is not necessarily town business, but I knew I had a captive audience. My daughter Lottie has just finished her requirements for Eagle Scout, and she needs a local politician to serve on her board of review. And so I had emailed Ms. Anderson and Mr. Landrum because I know they know Lottie, and I think Mr. Potts also does know Lottie. So I was hoping to recruit a volunteer for her. I would have sent her to recruit her own volunteer, but she is at a scout meeting right now. So if
I would be happy to volunteer and do that. I would love to, Ms. Miller.
I'll leave you a business card so you can
Okay.
find
Yeah.
it.
I think I chaperoned Lottie at Model UN one year.
Right. I know that you've been her chaperone at Model UN.
Yeah.
You may also remember Lottie because she moderated the
The
virtual
debate. Yeah.
forum for the
She did a great job.
council election.
Yeah, she did a
Last
good
fall.
job.
Right. And
Yeah.
one of the reasons you probably didn't get a response pretty quickly is on the agenda tonight. Our email system was.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
I thought that maybe I'd sent, you're going to think I'm stalking you because I sent you to an email and then I came to the meeting. But
Yeah.
after I sent
Yeah.
the email, I noticed the meeting was tonight and I thought, well, that'll be an easier way to find people because I didn't know if that was an email you regularly
Yeah.
checked. So
Right.
Absolutely appropriate.
anyway,
Yeah.
I appreciate you letting me stand up and say that
Sure
in the
thing.
meeting when it's not necessarily relevant to town business.
And good luck to Lottie.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's going to be an honor. I look forward to it.
All right, we have John Foreman. If you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. John Foreman, 209 North Palisades Drive. And basically, Harry and Charlie know my situation already, but I'm going in front of the variance committee tomorrow. And it's based on the variance issue, obviously. But I was talking to some people, and basically in Hamilton County, they had the same rule, same variance rule that we have, but they made an exception for that rule. And so I was just many conversations with many people and was wondering, basically, I wanted to know what channels I need to take to see if I could get our variance to have an exception. And I've heard, and I just want to make sure that I'm supposed to meet with the planning commission first and go over all that with them. And if they like or approve or whatever, then I would come back for the town council to vote on it. That's what I've been told, but just wanted to make sure that I was thinking right and see.
Did the BZA issue a judgment? Did they not?
No.
As I recall, the variance request was withdrawn at the
Yes, sir.
hearing.
Yes, sir. And I'm supposed to go
Earlier
back
this month or
tomorrow.
whenever it was. So it could be brought again. Now, I think it was put on the next agenda.
Yes.
And the hopes that maybe something would be worked out.
So basically tomorrow, I'm going back to say, if I do X, ABC or XYZ, would that be okay? If that's okay, then great. If not, I was going to ask for an allowance of time for like, can I go through this process? And if the town council votes no, oh, well, that's it.
Well-
And but it could get changed.
I think the BZA is going to have to rule on your request.
Okay,
And then if you are unhappy with their decision, your appeal is to court. I don't think you get to
right.
the planning commission or the town council on a
Right.
variance request.
I think, it sounds like John wants to try to get the town to change the ordinance.
Yes.
It's a different issue, right?
And I'm just wondering if they would allow enough time, like if that, I was gonna see with you guys, if I went through that process of the planning committee and voting on it, is that like a 2-month process or 3? And if it was like 2 months, then I would just ask them, hey, can I just leave it there for 2 months while we decide on this?
Yeah, and I think this is probably just to bring everybody else up to speed. So the BZA, the Board of Zoning Appeals, if they rule on something, and the person wants to appeal it, has to go to Chancery Court. Second, the person who asked for the thing has to wait a year before coming
Right.
back. And
Right.
so kind of at the last minute, at the last meeting, John withdrew his request.
Right, to try to figure this out, yes.
That's right. But then on our side, who knows how long it takes to get something done? Honestly, I mean, because it can have to go, he might have to read it, and people might have to send it back and forth. So
Right.
there's no guarantee that that's
And maybe even just within a certain amount of time, if nothing happens then I guess I lose too. Just something to,
yeah.
instead of just a,
I don't know the background of this at all,
Right.
but some things are kind of required by state law, as I understand it, from a variance standpoint.
yes, this is not.
Okay.
It was just, it's a setback rule. And in Hamilton County, obviously they dealt with this same situation enough times to where they've made an exception of if it's 12 feet high, less than 12 feet high, open on 3 sides, they have an exception. We don't have that exception up here. So that's my issues, but.
It's a shed.
I mean, all I can say is that you're free to do what you want to do, and if it means that you wait and try to see if the planning commission would take that up, and however long that takes, I can't tell you.
Right.
None of us could.
But is that the proper channels? I'd go in front of the planning commission first and then you guys would vote on it or?
No, this is a BZA thing.
Well, changing
No,
the ordinance.
changing the
Change
ordinance.
it.
Yeah, he's
They
talking
told me
about
they
changing
He's
could.
not talking about the variance request.
He's basically-
itself,
Yeah.
I don't think.
He's going to
I'm
pull
saying
his
get in
variance
there.
request and see if
Hamilton
he can
County
get.
has a exception to their setback. They have a rule, just like our rule, but then they have an exception for that rule. We don't have that exception, so the ordinance on signal, that's what I'm proposing to get changed
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah, I think the process would be to ask the planning commission
Okay.
to amend or to ask the town council to amend the zoning ordinance to make the exception that
Okay.
you're referring to.
Gotcha.
Now, how long that would take,
Obviously.
it would not be quick. And it's hard to say. I mean, once it finally gets here, if the planning commission recommends it, if the town council wanted to make the change, then the ordinance, the amendment would have to pass here on 2 separate readings.
And a hearing.
He's
sorry?
talking about here.
And we'd have to have a hearing as well.
Correct.
We'd have to have a public
Correct.
hearing as well. And if we decided tonight, which is not even on the agenda, that
Right.
we thought this should be done, we would still send it to the planning commission to talk about it, to get their recommendation for or against. Now,
Right.
the planning, just so you know, the planning commission can recommend against something.
Sure.
And the town council still recommend for it and vice versa. So
Right.
it's a
And that might be multi-step quicker, like if planning commission's like, no way, this isn't happening, then it's pretty quick, it sounds like. But yeah, so that, I think I got that right. So planning commission, if they're good, then it would go to a hearing and then 2 separate something.
Well, the hearing is not a part of the planning commission, it's part of
Oh, that'd be
of
part
the
of it.
adoption of,
Okay.
of a zoning change.
All right. I guess that's it.
Yeah, all right,
Thank
thank you.
you.
Thank you guys so much.
Do we have any other citizens that wish to be heard? All right, thank you. All right, resolutions. First up is the administrative hearing officer. This is a resolution authorizing the town manager to enter into contract negotiations for professional services of administrative hearing officer with Jeffrey P. Duke as authorized by Tennessee Code annotated section symbol or sections 6-54-101 through 6-54-1018 and sections 12-1101 through 12-1117 of the town code. Sure, we have a resolution for David Kessler. I'll go ahead and read that as well. A resolution authorizing the town manager to enter into contract negotiations for professional services of administrative hearing officer with David P. Kessler as authorized by Tennessee Code annotated sections 6-54-1001 through 6-54-1018 and sections 12-1101 through 12-1117 of the town code. All right, do we have a motion I'm not really sure. We've got two guys. I'm not sure, how would be best to choose one. Maybe we discuss these before we have a motion. Is that proper? Harry?
You can discuss it. You can discuss the two of them. If there is a motion to hire one of them, then you can have further discussion then.
Okay. Has everybody had a chance to talk to these guys? Has anybody had a chance to talk to the guys? I mean, they both seem like they're well qualified. Jeffrey Duke doesn't live here yet, I don't think, but he is moving to the area, and he has actually done work similar to what an administrative hearing officer does. So I was impressed by that.
I was too.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's pretty in line with prior experiences would lend him to be an easy fit.
Yeah.
I agree. I feel like the subtlety with someone in this position, it will warrant having somebody that has experience.
Yeah.
How does this line up with the decision we made at the last meeting?
The last meeting
That we were
where we
going to-
hired one, or
No,
the
no.
last meeting?
At our actual last meeting, where we had decided to go
Contracting
ahead.
for services with the judge from the state.
Did anybody do that? Did we?
That's what we decided to do,
Right.
did we not?
I don't think it was done. Or
I
was
think
it done? I
an-
guess the question would be,
it
was it
an
done?
interim stopgap measure until we had
Is that me?
person selected and put into place who also then attended the training. So,
Yeah, I think it was, my understanding was initially to pursue that until an administrative hearing officer was selected, but then by the end of the discussion, you decided to have this on the agenda for this meeting. So,
Well, yeah, I think first of all, I think that you can have a temporary administrative law judge hear a matter temporarily, even if you have an administrative hearing officer in place or before you have one in place. So the question I raised last meeting was, do we have something pressing that we need to get started? And if so, let's get started. And we can still put this on the agenda and choose somebody. And then there's going to be a negotiations period. And then I'm not sure if they have to go through the training first or if that's something they can do later. But that doesn't stop us from using an administrative law judge if we need somebody to hear something right away. I don't think that putting this on the agenda meant we should not proceed with an administrative law judge if we needed one, but it sounds like that's what was done. So I don't know if we have anything pressing. Boyd and Sam would know, but I don't. So
So I would think those things would be the kind of things you wouldn't want to talk about at a public meeting for one. It might be a good idea for
if we have a pressing need.
you to schedule time to maybe talk with the town manager to find out about the individual cases, because these tend to be cases where a citizen has got,
I'm not asking about details of a case. All I was asking is if we have something we need done right away. If so, let's get an administrative law judge to do it. We can. And then we can get an administrative hearing officer in
I don't
place
thi-
and they
yeah,
can
I
handle
don't know
much
if
of
that's
that.
something that we have to know the individual cases, maybe.
No, it's just a matter of whether we have something that we need to get going. And if so, let's do it. And if we don't, then we can wait and, let the administrative hearing officer have them, take whatever matters come up as they come up.
And we can do that. I don't think that anything else is required for us to enlist the services of administrative law judge, because the statute, and I believe even our code specifically says that we can do that. So we can.
Okay.
So it wasn't that we stopped pursuing that. We determined that during the process, found the information, what they charged, how it would work, and we do have that at our disposal at this point.
Okay, so, we can have a motion, pick one of these gentlemen as the administrative hearing officer. We can also go forward with an administrative law judge if we have something that needs to get heard sooner than later. We can do both of those at the same time.
I'll make a motion that we select Jeffrey Duke to serve.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion in place. I just want to have some discussion about it. And I'm imagining that most of you, if not all of you, talked with both people. If we go with Jeffrey Duke over David Kessler, it's certainly no slight on David Kessler. He is an outstanding attorney with a fantastic law firm, one of the best in town. So it's certainly no slight on him. And I would also say that if Jeffrey Duke is selected and he doesn't end up moving to the town, then we'll need to bring this back up again. Does anybody else have any
Does the
comments?
administrative hearing officer have to reside in the town?
My understanding is no, but
I don't think so. I think I remember when we first started talking about this, that wasn't a
It
requirement.
does not. And in his letter, he states that he's moving, hometown is Chattanooga, and plans to return permanently spring, summer. So he hasn't indicated he would be moving to the mountain, just to the Chattanooga.
I don't think it's a
But
bad
again, I don't
thing
think it's
that-
required.
Yeah, I don't think it's bad that he wouldn't live up here. He would have less knowledge of people and
Yeah,
Might actually
that
be
was
better.
kind of a,
yeah. He's not going to
There
see
there
him
was
at
very
Pruitt's
hard
and be
to-
like, oh, I'm sorry.
both of them were obviously very excellent options, but that was actually kind of a positive to me that he's been gone for a while and is less likely to know the parties involved
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
with a particular dispute.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments? All right, we can vote on this. We have a motion and a second. So do we do a roll call vote? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? No? All right. This authorizes Boyd to negotiate with Mr. Duke. We'll see how that goes. If things break down, then we can have this come back up again for another choice. Before we get to the next resolution, I wanted to just make some comments about that. First, I will say that if anybody out there went to the MAC grand opening, it was fabulous. I didn't get a chance to see Dan play, which I was disappointed not to see him play, but I did see the Briars, who were a great duo, and I don't know if they're from Signal Mountain or not, but they were really nice, did a good job. And the work that the Preservation Fund has put into that place is outstanding. It's really amazing. I used to use that with mock trial years ago, and just to be able to see what it looks like now compared to what it used to look like, it's hard to believe. So congratulations to the Preservation Fund for all the hard work you guys have put into that. I was on the Planning Commission, or I still am, but I was on last year when this came up, and I watched that meeting again because I remember there was something about the Planning Commission having to hear a matter before we can enter into a lease. And Boyd had the code section, which I printed out. It's 13-4-104. And I'm not sure why this hasn't come before the Planning Commission first, before coming to us. I know this is an existing lease, but it seems to me that we're entering into another lease, and that this code section doesn't say that once you enter into a lease, you can extend it or enter into another one with the same parties without going back before the Planning Commission. So perhaps Harry has some research on that, but it seems like it has to go to the Planning Commission. I'll also add that Boyd mentioned this at our budget meeting in June about entering into a 5-year lease with the Preservation Fund. And I, at that meeting, said I wasn't comfortable with a 5-year lease. I'm not saying I don't want to lease to the Preservation Fund, but I think another year lease would be better than a 5-year lease. So I don't think this actually came to us for discussion and determination before it's being put on the agenda to vote on approval. So I think it would be better for us to decide, what do we want to do in terms of a lease. I do think when I think of the Preservation Fund, I think of a group that's preserving that building, and it just seemed odd to me that they now want to, and I'm not saying odd, that's a bad choice of words, but different from them now turning from a preserving group to a community running community programming group. Not that they can't do it, but it seems like that's, their mission was to preserve the building, not operate it. Now they're going to operate it, and that's fine. If the Preservation Fund wants to do that, I'm seeing them here, the leaders. I don't have a problem with it, but just to make sure that that's their mission, that is to, it just seems like those are two different missions, which are fine, but I just want to make sure that that's still, that's within their organization's mission is to operate it.
We did talk about this, though, last summer about them operating when there were some changes. I mean, this isn't something new.
No, I remember that meeting. In the meeting, it was it was a specially called meeting in June of the Planning Commission. I wasn't on the town council. And Boyd came and told us that the place had been shut down, and that the Preservation Fund, there was uncertainty about what was going to happen with COVID, whether the place would be reopened again, but the Preservation Fund was kind of bailing us out and giving us the opportunity to put it in their hands during that time period when things we couldn't operate it, and they were going to operate it for us. And that kind of was it was sort of couched as a one-time thing, but if things worked out really well, we could do it again. And again, I'm not saying let's not do it, and I'm not saying that don't want the Preservation Fund to operate the MAC. What I am saying is, I never was comfortable with doing a 5-year lease right off the bat. I think another year, if we're going to do that, would be an appropriate first step or next step, especially given the fact that the place was pretty much shut down for most of 2020. And
It wasn't.
And then just knowing what, kind of figuring each other out during this time period. So I think it would be better for us to take a smaller step instead of jumping into a 5-year lease.
Sure. I think that's one topic of debate, but you said some things. It wasn't shut down. And they worked hard to make sure everything that could be done. And they were also constantly making improvements so that when it was fully opened, that it would be. And
they made lots of improvements.
You also said, and this isn't me defending them either. I have to be careful, obviously, with this. Mm-hmm. I've been warned. You start talking about changing plans from people that have planned and worked, and we did discuss this as a council without having a backup plan. There's that old saying about the thing that kills something is not the arrow that shoots you, it's the arrow you shoot back at yourself. I think that's a mistake. That the second arrow is the one that gets you, and this feels like that kind of a situation in this. What is your plan if you don't think they should run it? What's your plan for that?
Well, I don't think you were
said that.
listening because I never said they shouldn't run it.
Yeah, you said programming. You said programming. They shouldn't do programming.
I didn't say that either. You may not be listening to me. What I said is that when I think of the preservation fund, I think of preserving the building. That's what you guys have been doing since you. Yeah, yeah.
Angie Landrum, 846 Kentucky Avenue. Okay, 3.5 years ago, we started a nonprofit, and initially, before we even did the paperwork, our proposal was to manage the MAC, to take over, to raise money, to fix the building, and to manage the programs. Initially, that is what we wanted. We had a little bit of pushback from someone who stood right here and objected to us managing. They thought it should be a town department. And because we didn't want to stir up trouble, because this was during the whole high school thing, we backed off. And we said, we'll just raise money for the building. That's the main complaint at all the MAC board meetings, is that the building is in disrepair. So we will focus on that until we get past all the high school drama. And we've given everybody a chance to get to know us and see that we are honest and dependable, and we want to do what we say we're going to do. And so I think after 3.5 years of working hard and raising money and being in the building while the programs are happening and seeing what needs to be done and what changes need to take place, that we're in a great position to manage. Excuse me. Sorry. We have a great team. I think we have proven that we can do a good job. We're asking for 5 years because it's going to take that long to get things going again. You know, some of our teachers have left, some of the students have left over the last year because of COVID. It's going to take some time to get things going again. But so far, even in the short amount of time that we've been back open, we've brought in 2 or 3 new art teachers, new music teachers, new programs. We're having new open mic, new events. I mean, it's already growing. So I hope you don't doubt our abilities, because I think we can be successful.
Yeah.
I would like to say that I see what kind of vision the Preservation Society has for the MAC. And it's not a one-year vision. It's a vision that goes far into the future. And with the arts, it's not a fast process. It's a slow process, because we're developing our brains. It's just slow developing and moving forward levels. You can always get better. So there's always more to do. There's always new things to bring in. And it's not just a mission. It's a gift and a ministry to our community to have people run it that are as dedicated as these folks are. So I'm very comfortable with a 5-year lease, because I understand that the mission and vision that these people have for our community to provide a place for adults and children who are focused on the arts to thrive and to grow and to learn and to be nurtured in their talents. So I am very appreciative, and I really feel strongly that this is a solid, smart decision for the town council to make.
Thank you.
Can I add something now? Because I was going to save this for later, but I think it's the appropriate time.
Sure.
We aren't going to be here much longer. And I was going to save this for later, but if there's animosity, you need to understand this. We have accepted a position that is going to keep us, both of us, out of the state for most of this coming year. So my time on the council's just about done. I'm not resigning at this moment, but I just want to make it clear so that everyone knows that. I remember when we had some situations before where some people knew they were gone or had even moved. It bothered me that they didn't say that. So I want to say that first right now. And it's pretty clear Angie's not going to be able to still volunteer all the time that she's done for this as well. I'm speaking as a citizen. We're speaking as citizens. And so if there was ever any inkling of what we're doing is to profit ourselves somehow, first off, that was unfair and ridiculous and on its face to begin with. And that's how the whole thing began a few years ago when we decided we'll just back off and just not worry about it for now. Just prove, thank you, and just prove the good intentions and the goodwill and then do the good work. And the good intentions and goodwill and good work have all been done at this point. This, as a citizen, which when I'm done here, for the whole time I'm here, I'll still show up there to speak as a citizen, is the exact thing you want happening. That are stepping up, determining what kind of programs happen and those kinds of things. I don't think you want an arts organization run by a council or even a town employee for that matter. I think it's way better if it's organic and it grows from the citizenry. And I think they've proven it. They've done a fantastic job.
Well, let me just say, first of all, y'all may be misunderstanding what I'm saying.
Yes, perhaps.
Yeah, because I've never said here or at the budget meeting that I don't think you guys should be running it, okay? Or that you're not doing a good job or didn't do a good job this past year. What I said is, when I think of the Preservation Fund, I think of the work you've been doing and what it sounds like the Preservation Fund would be doing, and that is to preserve the building, to rehab the building. That's what you've been doing. Last year was the first year that you took over programming the building. I don't know what you're a nonprofit. I don't know what your mission is. I don't know what how you have to obviously sign papers and submit a mission statement, I guess, as a nonprofit. I don't know what it is. Maybe it is to rehab and operate, and that's great. But and so I'm not saying that I would say I don't want the Preservation Fund to be involved in the MAC. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, and I said this at the budget meeting, my vision would be that, like, the 5-year lease has the town basically paying all the expenses, right? Paying for the water and the electricity and the usage and all that. Well, what we should have, and right now the 5-year lease says that I guess the town is putting, the proposal would be for the town to put an additional $60,000 into the building. If I were going to look at a long-term situation with the Preservation Fund, I would want to know that at the end of 5 years, it's revenue neutral. The town isn't funding, paying anything more than what's being brought in. In other words, we're not spending money on water and electricity. The Preservation Fund has gotten to the point where they're self-sufficient. So they're paying for the expenses of operating it.
You do understand that we're saving you money this year. You're no longer having an employee paid by the town.
Right. I remember that part of the meeting, like we didn't have an employee and we were taking the money that we were paying the employee and we were putting it into some improvement. So
the town asset.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's right. But the town is paying these expenses. Like I said, my vision would be that over time, the town's contribution to the expenses goes like this, and the town is ultimately not spending money for expenses. That's the idea. When the town had an employee there, the idea was that the income from the services was going to offset the expenses that were being paid. That would be the idea of any department.
So may I address that? In speaking to Andrew, would you think it reasonable, and I don't think this is reasonable, I'll make it clear right now, and I'll try to not overstate this, if we said the same thing for the sports leagues?
Well,
that they need to be revenue neutral. Think about the money that we just spent.
I do think they should be.
So
the sports leagues
So
the sports leagues can never resurface Marion Driver. That's not possible. The sports leagues can't redo the tennis courts. I mean, they can.
I'm not saying that. Look, the soccer league, okay?
That's not Signal Mountain. That's the whole county.
It's Signal Mountain Soccer League, and the town doesn't pay any money to Signal Mountain Soccer League. They do it all themselves.
That's not our property.
Right, and so if the town is out, the town might be maintaining the building because it's the town's building. What I'm saying is the expenses of operating the building the town, the ultimate goal would be the town's not paying those expenses to operate the building. It's the preservation fund has gotten to a point where the revenue coming in pays for the revenue going, the expenses going out.
Do you think?
And I think the baseball league should be like that, or the football league.
So-
They should generate enough money that the expenses of operating the leagues aren't paid by the town.
So let me buy into your argument for a minute. If that's the case, and you want somebody to get to that place, which is going to make it easier, a 1 year or a 5-year lease?
I think, look, last year was an anomaly. The preservation took over because, the way Boyd couched it, they took over because we were in COVID. The place wasn't operating. They offered, hey, we'll bail you out. We'll take over. Look, in June, it was shut down. It was shut down in March. And then it was shut down again in, I think, November. So if you say it was open most of the year, the first part of the year it was being operated by the town. And then in June or July 1st, the preservation fund took it over. It had been shut down for March, April, May, and June. And then I don't know when it reopened, but then it shut down again in the winter. So it really wasn't open for most of the year.
We have
and it wasn't
operated
during-
several months over the last year, and if you would like to talk to teachers and students that are there now, you will get a lot of positive feedback.
Yeah.
They are really enjoying being back there, and they are enjoying the way it is being run. We've made improvements to the way it's run. We now have the ability to collect online payments, so teachers or students can come in and pay, or they can pay online. They don't have to come in and write a check or whatever. Scheduling is done online. Announcements are made online. Teachers can interact. People are getting bills in their email. It's just, there have been so many improvements in the system that everyone appreciates. And if
Well, I'm not saying you guys aren't doing a good job. I will say we have a library, right? And a town employee is running the library, and she does a great job because that's what her background is. That's what she's trained to do. And you're saying that we couldn't have a town employee run the MAC effectively because, it's a government employee. They couldn't possibly run the MAC. Well, I say that's wrong. I say we could get somebody if we needed to. And I'm not saying we do that. I'm just saying that,
You're absolutely poisoning the well against the good work these people have done.
I'm not at all, because I've never once said that I don't want the preservation fund to run the MAC.
I think that the lines have gotten blurred, and we need clarity
Yeah, so
of purpose. And I think that they have clarity of purpose, and I think the MAC board has clarity of purpose. And I think we probably need the opportunity to have that clarity shared with us. I mean, I don't know if,
you just got an email letter from Ryan, right?
I didn't see it come in, but
Okay.
to that point, the MAC board, the town's MAC board had a meeting Saturday. And I went to that meeting, and their discussion revolved around what their purpose would be in the future, and the fact that they didn't feel that they were needed. And I pointed out that really was secondary to another recommendation that needed to come from them, because it sounded like their position was that the current situation is what needed to continue. And if that was the case, then another recommendation would need to be made relative to what would happen with the town's board. And ultimately, their unanimous vote was to recommend to council that the MAC board, the town's advisory committee, be dissolved in favor of and because of their recommendation that the town enter into a 5-year lease and MOA with the Preservation Fund. So simply conveying that input from the MAC board to council. They're clear that those are recommendations, and if council chooses to follow that, it would involve changing the ordinance for the MAC board, but
changing the ordinance
to
that
dissolve
established
it,
the MAC board
right?
to change the ordinance so that it names Signal Mountain SMEPF?
No, you would simply dissolve the MAC board because they feel that there's no need for, the MAC board doesn't feel the MAC board needs to exist any longer because they feel the preservation fund should be operating
And-
it. And the preservation fund has invited all current MAC board members to join their board of directors, which would be a voluntary individual decision, but they've extended that invitation.
Well, this is really beyond the scope of what I'm talking about. I mentioned two things. One, from what you said last year in June at the Planning Commission meeting, this has to go to the Planning Commission first. And I don't know why it wouldn't. We're entering into a lease, and the statute says the Planning Commission has to approve that first. So it seems like A, it has to go to the Planning Commission. B, I think that what would have been more appropriate was for the Preservation Fund to come to us and say, hey, we want to run the MAC long term. Because the way it was couched to the Planning Commission, and I wasn't on the town council back then, is that COVID was causing problems and you guys were there to bail us out.
That's not accurate.
Fine. That's the way it was couched to the Planning Commission, okay? You can say, that is, I watched the meeting. I watched the meeting last night. It was an opportunity. You said it was an opportunity. They were going to take over for us when the place was shut down, and, that was going to help us out as a town. So I think it would have been more appropriate for the Preservation Fund to come to the town council and say, this is what we want. Instead of having it on the agenda to approve, we would talk about these issues. And maybe that's what we're doing now, is talking about these issues. You guys want a 5-year lease. I'm uncomfortable with a 5-year lease right now. I'm more comfortable with a 1-year lease. And to see how you guys are going to run it, what's your plan to become self-sufficient, so to speak. I was on the board of a group called Association for Visual Artists, and we used to get all our funding from Allied Arts, which has changed its name now. I can't remember what it's called.
Artsbuild.
Artsbuild. Okay. We went, and so every year we would go to the meeting where we just sat there expecting to get full funding from them. And one year we went to the meeting and they said, we're not going to fund you. We think you should be self-sufficient. We think you guys need to come up with programs that make your own money. And they just cut us off. Now, maybe not 100%, but they cut us off a lot. And we had to go back and be like, okay, we got to start making money. So we did. And we changed our way of doing business and we started making money. I'm not saying, what I'm saying from that example is that I think the Preservation Fund should come to the town council and say, this is our long-term plan, how we're going to be self-sufficient. And the town's not going to have to pay our expenses because we're going to be self-sufficient. Let's start with a 1-year plan, lease, and then over the course of that year, we can get to know each other, we can determine how this is going to be effective for a long term, and
Maybe
then
we
come
can
to
up
us.
with mutual goalposts.
Yeah.
That,
And then come to us and say,
I
we
believe
want
it's
to,
already
this is working,
It's already
let's
in
do a
the
5-year
lease or the
plan.
MOA that this will be discussed every year at budget time. It's already in there. It's going to be a new decision every year. And it's in there that either party can cancel or back out. I mean,
It is, but it's also in there that the town will continue to pay all utilities, for example.
Pay utilities, that's right. Like it does for all the other buildings it owns, like it does for the ball fields.
I understand that.
But the town is operating those. I mean, this is we're giving it to somebody else to
The
operate.
town does not operate the ball leagues.
The town receives revenue, some, it should receive more probably, from the ball fields.
Mhm.
In this
Right.
sen-
You
in
think
this
it's revenue
situation,
neutral?
I didn't say that.
It should be.
I didn't
Dan,
say you
I
said, I asked, I
you
didn't
asked
say you
me a
said
question
that.
earlier, and you didn't even let me answer it.
Oh,
You
I'm
need
sorry,
to
go ahead.
Please let me talk. No, I agree that we should be moving our sports to
I think
more
that's-
self-sufficient.
yeah,
Like,
it's hard
'cause
for them though.
It's hard, and it's never, I may not agree with Charlie on this. I'm not sure that it ever will be able to be fully self-sufficient. That's maybe not a possible goal. And I think that's the same situation for the MAC. But I do think we I agree with Charlie, we need to be setting some objectives and have a plan. And it sounds like you guys have that. I have not seen it. So I would love to see it.
I
That
would
would be
love to
awesome.
send it to you.
Um,
We do have the
And
strategic
yeah,
plan.
how do we get to more self-sufficiency? And I agree also that COVID, I'm sure, was a horrible year to take over. Your revenues were not what they could have been, right?
Right.
And so you're starting a year late in this, and you didn't have the revenues that you could have had to be more self-sufficient, which is why, like, when the $60,000 was put in, I was kind of like, well, that makes sense, because we used to make $60,000 of revenue off of this, and that
Right.
was probably pretty much wiped out last year.
Right.
So
May I ask, how much community funding has come into the MAC in the past year?
Not much.
No,
Do
I
you
mean
mean
the overall
donations?
amount of money, donations that have gone in to fund
Oh, for the building?
the restoration, building, everything.
I hate to guess at numbers, but probably close to 100,000.
I thought there's
Or
more
maybe
work than
that's
that's been
two-
done than
2
that.
years.
Because you've had
I don't
air
know.
conditioning systems paid for, you've had,
Oh, yeah, yeah. Some of that was town, though, part of town
Okay.
budget, because of our arrangement with,
yeah.
Saving
You
money
guys
on
know
employees
that
when in town.
they do quarterly reports, and you can see all the quarterly reports. Everybody at this table is invited over to my house if you would like to go through all the books. There's, it's all
yeah,
up to
pretty
date.
straightforward.
Yeah.
I mean, donations are for the preservation of the building. That's, if you have two missions, if your mission is to preserve the building and operate the building, then I would imagine the donations are coming in to preserve the building, because that's pretty much what you've been doing. And you've been
Some
doing a
people-
great job of that. I'm not
Thank you.
discounting that at all.
Sometimes people want to donate towards programs. We do have a separate account for that. We've had it for a couple of years.
Okay.
So
And again,
we can do both.
I-
It's not
I'm
a
not-
one or the other thing.
Yeah.
They
All right, so-
do go together.
just so we're clear, I'm not suggesting that you guys shouldn't be operating it. I've not said that.
You seem to be just objecting to the 5-year.
Right. I think
Okay.
that in a perfect world for me, we would have had this discussion and y'all would have said, hey, we want a 5-year plan. And maybe then we would have said, well, listen, if you're going to have a
Well, we
5-year
had
plan.
that discussion
this
with
is-
our boards, both boards and with Boyd and with Harry. That's where the discussion happened. And so he brings you the final thing to look at. And I guess you can discuss it all you want, but
I mean,
Yeah.
I
To me-
this
think,
is what we've had to look at.
Yeah, to me, the ideal scenario to me would be, let's do a 1-year lease. You guys took over during COVID. It wasn't open for many of the months of the year. Let's do a 1-year lease. Let's get to know each other. Let's figure out a long-term plan so that you guys can get that 5-year lease. But for the time being, let's do a 1-year lease. If
the
if
thing
I
that
were to
makes
say,
that hard for us is in grant writing and in raising donations, because that's the thing that people ask. Who's managing? Who's in control? Who's the one collecting the money? And we need to be able to say, we have an agreement, a 5-year agreement. We need that for getting grants. You know, making it a year-by-year thing just makes it all look iffy. And it makes it hard, hard to plan.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
So-
I'm not saying do it a year by year from now until the end of time. I'm saying let's do it for
I
a
know, but
year,
we're starting right now.
and then
So it does
let's-
matter.
Let's, during the course of this year, let's work on that 5-year target plan. And then at the end of the year, let's do that 5-year lease with the appropriate goals that we have for each other. That's my ideal scenario. So that's what I'm saying.
Okay, I disagree.
Okay.
I think that's a bad
That's
idea.
fine.
Okay.
So, Harry, do you know if this has to go in front of the planning commission as a lease that's changing or we're signing?
Well, the way I looked at it was that the planning commission approved a lease between these parties that could be extended.
your mic's off,
Okay.
Harry.
Sorry.
That's it.
The way I looked at it was, and I can't tell you that I researched it, but my view of it was the planning commission approved a lease between these parties that could be extended. The term of the extension, the 5 years versus 1 year, I think the town council should determine. But it didn't occur to me that since the planning commission approved a lease between these parties that could be extended, that a new lease would have to go back to them.
Well,
And
maybe not the same lease, 1 year, but a 5-year is a material change, I would think.
Well, what is the lease? The lease said it could be extended. It didn't limit it to extended for a 1-year term, did it?
I don't have the old lease.
And
I know I read that part and I don't recall right now.
do you have it?
The term may be extended upon mutual agreement of the parties.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, when you brought this to us, this is the first time I'd ever seen this provision, this code provision, so it seemed odd to me then that the planning commission had to approve a lease, but this is what it said. But, that would be a question, I guess, for Harry to tell us, this is what I think.
I think he just did.
That's the way I viewed it, yes. Have I researched it? No.
Yeah.
But if you've got a lease which provides it can be extended, and the planning commission approved the lease, which says it can be extended essentially without having to come back, I mean, that lease has been approved. I don't think it needs to go back. If
Okay.
you want me to spend more time looking, I'm glad to. But
I would think you would be lucky to find any case law that addresses that
well,
section.
I agree with you.
But, okay, well, I mean, that was one of the things that's, when I was on the planning commission, that's what we were told. This has to be approved by the planning commission. That's why I brought that up. My other issue is that I said this isn't the first time you're hearing this. This was said by me out loud at our budget meeting. I wasn't comfortable with a 5-year lease. I think a 1-year lease would be more appropriate. So this is not new. Shouldn't be shocking to anybody. And I don't know if anybody else feels the same way. I guess, that's what we need to decide. What do we want to do?
Well, one thing that makes, I'm just looking at this, is that we do have a right as a town council to cancel the lease. There is a process. So that's kind of a safety net in my mind. So if we say that we're going to give you a 5-year lease so that you can have the capacity to write and go for the big grants, the National Endowment for the Arts, different organizations that you could engage with for big money, it is a multi-year process. So giving them that in faith that they're going to do a good job, and with us saying we want to see revenue neutral happening. So we want to see the town expenses for the MAC going down, right? Then if we don't see it in a couple of years, we can come back to them and say, what's up? Because you're not doing what you said you would do. We want to see it this way. So we do have the capacity to do that. So unless I'm reading this completely wrong, and I might be, but it says that you have a chance to fix it. Like if we say something's going on and we would like to change. So anyway,
So I think I can kind of buy into that too.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the idea of having like timed goal posts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not an unusual way of doing business in the world of nonprofits, and becoming revenue neutral. If you receive a big grant from from a foundation to fund a position during the term of that grant, you have to do a lot of reporting, and you have to show your results, and you also have to show that you are raising supplemental funds to reduce or to offset the money that you receive from the foundation. That's how it works at the United Way. Maybe we need to try to create goalposts like that so that they're built into the lease. We get transparent, timely reporting, which I think that they've said that they would, give us quarterly updates as to how things are going. And I think at the end of the day, it really is kind of a trust issue too. And I feel like these folks and this organization has earned our trust. I have a lot of confidence in them and in what they've done, and what an asset the MAC is to the community and what potential it has. I mean, it's beautiful. And you've got smart people that are there doing the job. Now, I do want to make sure that, I told them today, I went and looked and I said, when I'm asking questions, it's not because I don't like what you've done, but my job is, as a council person, I have to think about the interests of the town. That's why I'm the liaison. That's what my role is on that board. And so it's totally legitimate to raise these questions, and I feel like we can work through these things together and come up with a compromise.
First and foremost, I want to second the awesome work. Folks at home that are watching haven't gone and seen it. It's beautiful. Like the place, the flooring, all the work is amazing, and the work that they're doing is beautiful. And it's gone from under SMEPF's work, a real, it wasn't an eyesore necessarily, but it wasn't great on the inside to being something that is that, and that's awesome. And I think we all do trust them. You're right, Susanna, but I have to step back. For me, my thought on it is I have to step back and say, are we following the right processes to, this is a citizen's asset, to responsibly manage this property for the citizens. And to me, we didn't get a good test year last year because of COVID. We don't know if we're heading the right direction on revenue. We could never know that with what last year was, right? We don't know. I looked at, they are providing quarterly financials as required in the lease agreement, and I looked at them, and yeah, it's taken a hit. Not surprising. So yeah, it's really hard right now to judge, are we heading the right direction? I would love for us to come up with, or see and hear the longer term plan and vision of where we want to be. I mean, I'm not necessarily convinced that needs to be completely revenue neutral, but I think it would be good to see that. And my thought when I read through this and did some research was, and I'm not aware of the grant requirements and stuff, so that's a new piece. But why don't we just do another 1 year? So we get more information, we have time to come up with a good plan together, and then we can execute a 5-year next year.
Yeah, I think that's a good proposal. I will address some things in the lease. I mean, first of all, as far as termination, it's weird. The memorandum of agreement can't be terminated except for cause. So it's a 5-year agreement unless, one of these things happens like bankruptcy or, problems. So it can't be terminated. The lease itself is odd because in the term section, it says the lease may be terminated by either party upon 90 days written notice. But then on section 4 says town's right to cancel. The town has the right to cancel the lease at any time. But again, that's only for cause, and there's a cure process, so that I don't know if the lease can be canceled or terminated or not. It's contradictory pretty much. But it does in section 8 talk about budgeting, and it says the town agrees to budget funds and cover the costs of items outlined in the proposal made by the SMEPF to the town. So that's pretty much saying, hey, every year or quarter, we're going to tell you what we need, and you guys are going to pay it. We recognize, it's earlier said, that the town, there's certain factors that may, change budgeting items and stuff like that. But I just think that I agree with Andrew, is that let's have a year of a full year under our belt where you guys are running it, and you come in after that year and say, this is our 5-year plan. This is what we intend to do. Now, maybe you guys had a conversation like that with the board and Harry. I haven't seen that. Nobody's shown me your 5-year target plan. But let's run it for a year and then get a 5-year plan together, and let's talk about how you see this going over the course of 5 years, where you can at least, if not completely revenue neutral, maybe mostly net revenue neutral, or maybe your target would be the best year that we had before you took over. Because I know that when Susan Robertson was on the council, that town council pushed the manager of the MAC to earn more income. She wasn't doing a good enough job of bringing in income, and they wanted more income to offset the expenses. And she did that. She increased revenue over the course of the next few years. And so I think that, the goal would be that the revenue brought in equals or exceeds the expenses to operate the building. And I mean, that's all I think we want to see. We're happy to have you manage it, but we want to see that in the long term, your goal is that you're not going to need the assistance of the town to operate the building. So I think a year under our belt would be good, and then we'll figure out that long-range plan. Sure, come on up.
My name is Dick Graham. I live at 405 James Boulevard. I'm on the SMEPF board. I work in the office every day for about 8 or 10 hours. I do carpentry work there, sheetrock work, paint, replace light bulbs, and 1,000 other things. And I want to clarify some things that maybe you all know, but maybe people listening don't. None of the town budget goes to the SMEPF, not one penny, and it never has, and it never will. So that money you're spending is going into a town asset. Now, this past year, one of the things you all did for the MAC that is a great improvement is we have heating and air conditioning in every room now. And we don't use that boiler. I don't have to go in there on a winter morning with a hammer and hit every damn valve in that building to get heat in a room. And some of it never comes. And we may have in this room this day, not tomorrow. Maybe half the building didn't have heat sometimes, but we did the best we could. And yes, this has been a tough year, but I think we proved ourselves. We kept that place running as well, I think, as anybody could. We had classes as much as we could. We've had some activities, group activities. We had our grand reopening, which I think was more successful than we ever thought it was going to be. The teachers come in, it's a happy place to work now. They tell us that. They tell us this is a happy place to come. We have parents come in and they say, we've never been here before when it was such a great place. It's just, this sounds weird, but one of the comments we get from a lot of people, it smells good now. I mean, that's kind of crazy to say, but that's one of the comments. But people are coming in there and having a good time and enjoying it. We have people on the grounds now because we put in picnic tables and benches. The basketball, we have 2 basketball goals up. During the day, we have people coming there with their kids to eat their lunch or to ride tricycles on the upper paved area or play basketball. The hiking trail that the Boy Scout put in, I can't remember his name right now. But
Max.
Max, he did a great job. We have people, when I'm there early in the morning, people are walking their dogs through the Mac property and up to Boy Scout Park and back down. You know, it's becoming the thing I think everybody wants it to be. And we want it to be a place that not just people in Signal Mountain come to. We want to have activities. We're having an open mic night every other week that's starting in a couple of weeks. We want people in Chattanooga and the whole region to look at this place and say on a Saturday night or something, you know, Friday night, I want to go somewhere. Hey, the Mac, let's see what they've got going. We want it to be that kind of thing, and that's our vision. Now, how fast that vision is going to come to be and whether it's going to make it revenue neutral or not, I don't know. I think I can stand here and say we may never be revenue neutral, but we're providing something for this town that's much more important than being revenue neutral. So I think we proved ourselves this year. We've invited, I know many, you all have been there some, I won't point at everybody, but we've invited council down a lot to come and take a look at what's going on, and we haven't gotten a big response. I'm being truthful here. So we're there every damn day. Come on down. We'll show you around. You can see, you can talk to the teachers, you can talk to the people coming in, and you can just see what's been happening. And it's been a lot this past year, even with COVID, and I think we've done a tremendous job. And as Angie said, that 5-year agreement is going to open up other grants to us. We couldn't, if we get a 1-year agreement, we can't go for a 3-year grant. They're not going to do it. So that's all I've got to say.
All right, thank you.
What about the fact that the MAC board, when they were meeting, their meetings were live streamed, you know, so that anybody can watch because they're an advisory board for the town.
Mm-hmm.
Will that continue under the new arrangement?
Well, they were live streamed while we were allowed to meet electronically.
So we can announce
we-
public meetings though, like when the,
Right, all of their meetings were public meetings. Now, technically, the SMEPF board meetings are not required to be public. The town could request that they do so.
I was just thinking, but you know, with town, because town tax dollars are still, you know, being used to operate the facility, that might add a measure of transparency if the town is providing or, you know, is asking for that kind of openness or whatever. I don't know if that makes anybody,
Well, I mean, they don't have to now. They're a private organization.
right.
They don't have to.
But now that the MAC has dissolved, the MAC board is dissolved, can we put something in place
That was another thing.
into the terms of the agreement
Yeah.
that the meetings be public?
Now I suppose so. That's a legal question for Harry. I did notice there was a provision in here where, let's see if I can find it. They talked about, you know, making their books available, or maybe not their books.
Maybe the provision where they are required to provide quarterly financial statements.
Yeah, where is that
And the
section?
town may request an annual audit.
Yeah, I
It's-
remember. I'm
Do you
just trying to
remember where
figure
that
out a
is?
way to kind of put it all, bring everybody together. So
Maybe that's
that-
in the memorandum of understanding.
The audit part's in the MOA.
MOA is, yeah.
Okay, because what was odd about that is, and I don't know the answer to this question that I had about it, was that I have to find it.
It's, if we're thinking of the same thing, it's on page 2 of the MOA, item 3.
That wasn't it. Yeah, it was actually in number 2. It says, all records of the operation shall be subject to the Tennessee Open Records Act and the Tennessee Open Meetings Act to the extent required by Tennessee Code Annotated 8-44-102. I don't know what that section is, but I wouldn't think that a private entity would have to provide
Public.
open records. I think there's some, with a nonprofit, you have to provide some public documents,
I think-
but I don't know what that section is.
Again, I'm not going to be an expert on this, but I did read some stuff around this. You have, I think, a 501c4, not 3, is required, and the 501c4 is you are directly receiving funds, which they don't do, from a municipal government or something like that. I don't know.
I mean,
It's
when
like
you say to the
anything
extent
else about
required
that.
by Tennessee Code
It's like
Annotated,
you
if
give
Tennessee
money
Code
for
Annotated
fireworks.
doesn't require it, then you don't have to do it. So, I mean, that would be something to make sure that Tennessee Code Annotated, does it even require anything? Because this could be just fluff. It might not require them to do anything.
I think in this section, the intent is that they have to provide us with annual accounting review and auditing and all the information, just like the next section that was mentioned about the quarterly accounting reports and so forth. They have to provide those to the town. Once the town has them, they are subject to open record requests.
Okay.
I think is the idea that they're required to give us their documentation, which normally would not be subject to open record requests, but once they do that and we possess them, then they are subject to open record requests.
All right, got it. All right, well,
Well, that's-
again, I think, I don't know if we have any new things to discuss. I think that we should enter into a 1-year agreement and then talk during that year about a 5-year agreement.
Harry, there was a time earlier when you wanted to speak a moment ago, and
Well, I was going, Charlie, Mayor Poss addressed the lease termination provision that generally both parties, either party can terminate on 90 days notice. There is the specific provision in the lease that says the town can terminate the lease, but that specific provision only deals with if, the deed provides it can't be a school run there. The town can terminate the lease on 30 days notice if the deed restrictions are being violated. And that's the cure. That can be cured in 30 days. But just for that one situation, the lease can be terminated on 30 days notice, not 90.
Okay.
That's what I was going to say, but Mayor Poss addressed it.
All right.
so, yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're moving towards a vote, and you haven't called the question yet, so.
I haven't even read the resolution.
Uh,
So,
Yeah, I'll hold off for just a second. No, not that. I move that we approve the resolution as a motion to approve.
The caption hasn't been read into the record.
Oh, you got
yeah,
it.
it hadn't been read yet.
Because we can have more discussion after that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it should be,
Could you read the caption so we can move forward?
okay. I'll have to find it. I'm all disorganized now.
Here you go.
Hey, I got it right here. Thank you. All right, this is a resolution authorizing the town manager to execute a memorandum of agreement and lease between the town of Signal Mountain and the SME Preservation Fund for the operation of the Mountain Arts Community Center for a 5-year period.
Move to approve.
All right.
Here's my question
Yeah.
for the two of you. Are there things that could be built into this agreement that would make you feel more comfortable in agreeing to a 5-year lease with certain stipulations put in place? For example, what I talked about, goalposts. I mean, obviously, there's going to be layers of transparency with reporting and things that they do. I sympathize, I understand what you're saying, because, you know, I do think that they need more time. And we're not finished with COVID, by the way. Just, you know, we'll put that out there. I don't know what's going to happen this fall with this virus, but children under the age of 12, as we speak today, can't even have the vaccine. So I don't know what's going to happen. So I think it's hard to plan for anybody. But I feel like they have put their due diligence in. They have met every agreement. Every time they've, you know, entered into any kind of agreement with us, they've met their obligations. They are worthy of trust. And so, I mean, it's an untenable situation for me personally. I'm having a hard time with this one. And so I'm wondering if there are things that we could do that would sort of can bring everybody to some consensus here, because I feel like, you know, we should be able to overcome these obstacles. Because it is, I've worked in nonprofit for a long time. Not having, it's very hard to write grants and things if you've only got a 1-year lease and you don't have that permanency. I mean, you can still sort of craft your language to say, you know, we have every reason to believe that we're going to be successful, but it isn't the same. And so it kind of ties their hands, and their hands have been tied for so long that I really want to give them the opportunity to be able to just be everything that they want to be.
I've had, like you, this is very conflicting for me because I have a tremendous amount of respect for the Grahams, and what they've done, and everybody over there, the Landrum. I mean, and I personally respect and trust them, but I view my role here as I'm here for the citizens. And so when I step back and I take, and I have a finance background, so, you know, maybe that's probably part of it for me, is I need to see a proof of concept for the citizens to, and I think maybe it's there, maybe the plan is there, but we just haven't been shown that.
Well, then maybe we need to let them come and give us a
Which is why
presentation.
I'm kind of thinking the only thing I would think is like we do the 1 year now, and then let's go ahead and proceed with seeing all that and developing that plan today. And once we see it and we're comfortable with it, then we can always replace the lease agreement with a 5-year lease agreement. That would be an option.
Yeah.
But I don't see a way today where I'm comfortable from the citizen standpoint. And again, personally,
I understand what you're saying.
Let me address two things. One, I agree with Andrew and I agree with you. And I think the problem that this whole thing is bringing out is that we weren't approached with a plan and approached by the Signal Mountain Preservation Fund saying, hey, we want a 5-year lease. This is why we want it. This is what we're going to do. And this is backwards. This should have been done first so that when we can say, yeah, let's do that, or, you know, let's have these benchmarks built in. So now we're coming up at the last minute, right? Your lease ends on July 1st. And we're being asked to rush this through. And we shouldn't be asked to rush this through. This should have come up earlier, and we should have had this discussion a while back. And we still can, because I think your lease allows you to be a tenant at will, so you can stay and continue operations until, or not. Yeah, if you want to leave, go ahead. But if you can stay and work on this and come to us with this plan.
May I
Again,
respond?
Mr. Graham, I'm not suggesting that any of you have done anything wrong. I think I agree with Andrew. You guys have been brilliant. You've done brilliant work over there, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be at the mic to speak, Dick. May I respond?
Yeah,
Please?
sure.
Well, I didn't interrupt you, and I want to go back, and I want to address what you said as well. I've been taking notes from all you guys,
Okay.
because I do know I'm passionate about this, and I'm trying to be careful. You said, are we following the right process? That's it. We determined the process.
Yeah.
This process is not last minute. This has been talked about multiple times at the meeting that this was coming up. They invited all of you multiple times to come in so that you could partake in the process, so that you could find out what's happening and be educated at this. This is not last minute. They did the work. You said we couldn't get, maybe we need to wait till we get a good test here. Could this possibly be the best possible test you can have, that these people did this work under the worst conditions and not just survived, but thrived and made it better and kept it going? This could be the best test. Wait, let me finish. You asked me to not interrupt you, and I asked the same. And you can address anything. I'll stop and let you, Andrew. You also said, are we headed in the right direction? Absolutely not. This is demoralizing to people who are trying to do good work. If you need to have these kinds of discussions, you get with them privately and you ask those questions. We can't keep, I've watched it happen to staff here, and I'm particularly tired of it. These people do good work. There are things that you don't discuss at these council meetings, that you meet with people in private when you have questions and you ask them. And it's happening over and over again, and it should not happen. It's embarrassing. I mean, yeah, proof of concept, an entire year. Now, by the way, it's more than a year. They were working over there 2.5 years ago. This is like 3 years into this thing. This is not 1 year. These people have been doing this constantly. They've been picking up the slack when there was a problem. You have an employee who got fired for cause, and they were like doing things to get stuff done. The proof of concept is there. And you kept saying we need to do just 1 year. They did a year. They just did that year. Charlie's argument about the about Planning Commission has been asked and answered. We're past that now.
I didn't raise it again.
No. I'm just saying, I'm just trying to talk what everybody's objections were. I wrote down all the stuff, just trying to see what we've done. This is exactly what you want to have happen in a community, and I know you appreciate the work they've done. I appreciate the work they've done. I haven't worked a quarter as much as these people back here have. I've stayed out of their meetings so that I don't have insider information. I didn't know what she was going to say today. None of that. So this isn't me trying to push that, and I've told you, we're not going to be here soon as well. I'm speaking as a citizen who owns property and will continue to own property in this town, that I've watched that place become a jewel for that neighborhood and made it better. I've watched people prove themselves in the face of some tough conditions. This happening right here should not be happening. There is, and I know Dick is unhappy at the moment, I think is accurate to say. Don't want to get in a situation, but have you thought about what happens if you drive the good people off? Because you are doing this publicly as opposed to doing it privately like you should.
No, Dan, we're a public body. We can't do everything in private and then come to the town council meeting saying, hey, we got a deal with the Signal Mountain Preservation Fund.
I agree with that.
That's not how it works.
But
we have to air our issues in public. That's how we work. So please don't try to suggest that we should have all gone and met with them privately to find out how to do this.
I'm suggesting exactly that. And
I mean,
we have the
how
public discussion.
are the citizens supposed to know what's going
Then
on
we
if
have
we
the-
all strike backroom deals?
It's not a Charlie, that's not a backroom deal. Then
It
you have
sounds
a
like
public
it.
discussion about what you learned.
Dan, my issue is
Yeah.
I got this to vote on Friday.
Yeah.
I started researching Friday. I spent personally most of my weekend in the hospital.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And no, I did not have time to talk specifically about this. Yes, it was mentioned in the budget meeting, but had a lot of other things to think about with the budget meeting too.
Well, that's what we
That-
signed
that
up for.
researching,
Yeah, we didn't
I
have a
didn't know
long-term
about the
discussion.
5-year lease either. I mean, I've been like retracing my steps.
So
And I even contacted
the
somebody
process that
who
I
was in the
disagree
meeting.
with is the shortness of that. Like, we didn't even get to discuss. To me, the process should have been, if a resolution is going to be put in front of us, we should have discussed what that should look like. And if we had done that months ago, we would have had these discussions and come up with plans.
Exactly.
Or requested plans and discussed appropriate
Links and
So
I
you
mean,
terms.
guys-
we're hearing
you guys
for the
did
first
not know-
time
you guys
that
did
there
not
might be
know,
grants that they
Charlie.
need to get that take 3 years to, that you have to show that you're going
The
to be there 3
question
years.
is, you
I
guys
mean,
did not know this lease was ending. I'm asking, did you not know this lease was ending?
I think what we,
You didn't know this lease was ending?
I knew that the lease was ending. I did not know that the
That we were trying
SMEPF
to-
was going to ask for a 5-year term.
So
Yeah.
what did you think was going to happen?
I didn't give it I did not consider it. I
I
did
have
not
a
know.
request. I would like for you guys to table this. And if you have any concerns, you can come talk to us personally.
I think it's
Okay?
a good idea.
And if you need more information from us, we're happy to give it. I hope you will look at the big picture. I watched the whole budget meeting that you guys had a few weeks ago. One thing I saw from each department was that everybody needs more staff. That's, every department feels shorthanded. What we are offering you is staff that doesn't cost you a thing.
Mhm.
And for you to turn that down, to me, seems nuts. But, I mean, that's what we're offering you. And to think that an arts organization like this can come back and be self-sufficient, self-sustaining, or whatever, in a short amount of time is also kind of crazy, because it's not going to happen, and especially not going to happen right now at the end of COVID. It's going to take time. I think asking for a 5-year lease is a reasonable request. I think arguing over this, it just makes no sense to me.
can I ask you a question,
I don't
Angie?
understand it. Sure.
Do you think asking for a 5-year plan, like a strategic plan for you to give to the town council is unreasonable?
No, I'm happy to do that.
Okay. I mean, that's all I'm asking for. Again, and I've said it once and I'll say it a million times. I'm happy for you guys to run the MAC. I'm happy to have you have a lease. And even a 5-year lease after we determine that we agree that here's what our goal is going to be. So I would like to have you guys come and say, this is our strategic plan. This is what we think we can do over the course of 5 years. And let's craft an agreement to do that.
I'm happy to do that.
I withdraw my motion.
Thank
You
you.
will need to withdraw your second.
Okay.
I
All
think
right.
that's reasonable. I'm comfortable
Is
with
that all we
that.
have to do, Charlie?
I'm sorry.
Or Harry, is that all we have to do?
I think what I would like,
Well, we need to make sure we're doing this procedurally correctly.
yeah, I think procedurally we're fine.
I'm withdrawing my motion.
She
She's withdrawing her
withdrew her
second.
So
second.
there is no motion.
There's no
pending.
motion on the table.
So, yes.
Yes, we're
Oh,
clear.
I'm sorry. Susan.
Okay, thank you. I think that this is how you build consensus and buy-in, and that's what we're trying to do here. This is not easy work. It's going to be messy. The best thing we can do is be civil with each other and patient.
I agree. Thank you. All right. Well, I look forward to hearing from the Preservation Fund further.
We will need a motion
To table,
Yeah, this,
is everybody comfortable with that?
I make a motion that we table it.
yeah, it has to come from, that has to come from the council.
Yeah,
Correct.
I make a motion, we table it.
All right. Do
I'll
we have a
second.
And no, I'm not comfortable with it, but I'm willing to do that because it seems what we need to do in order to move this forward, so.
Any discussion to be had on that? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. The next item on the agenda is an ordinance to temporarily continue the fiscal year 2020 through 2021 annual operating budget of the town of Signal Mountain, Tennessee for fiscal year 2021 through 2022.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? No? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, the next item on the agenda is a discussion about the email. This seems like it's a manager's report. Or no, I guess Sam, okay.
I'll address this. I have had a couple of discussions. I just wanted to give you guys an update. We are moving forward. We have kind of, just to let you know, we have kind of shifted the website talks to the back burner while we put email at the forefront. It's difficult to try to do both simultaneously. So I have had discussions now with Local Government Corp to find out what options they offer. They have discussed a couple of different options to move us away from our current system into a different system, two different options actually. I've also had discussions with representatives from Google, Gmail, and the preferred partner of theirs who could manage the migration and the initial startup of that. Do have some rough numbers, but hate to share those at this point because there's more work that needs to be done to determine exactly. It's all dependent on how much data we decide to migrate from our current system. So we have to do a little bit more work to determine how much of that needs to be moved over and how much might not necessarily need to be moved over.
Do you have any, and I know it's rough, so we're not going to hold you to anything, but do you have any general ideas based on the amount of data and timetables for transition?
Timetable, I apologize, I don't have a specific timetable. All I could say at this point, if we chose to migrate all of our data, we would be looking into a bid process. More than likely, we would exceed our bid threshold. We're trying to look to see if that's necessary, not or not, and we'll be bringing that back to you all.
Can you give us an idea when you say all of our data, how encompassing is that? Do you mean all are you talking about specifically just email or outside?
What the data that I'm working with is how much we have in emails and attachments. I was given two different numbers by local government as far as what those were. We have 100 and some odd gigabytes of information in emails. We have 400 and some odd gigabytes of data in attachments to those emails for a total of 600 and some odd. I apologize for not having specific numbers.
That's okay.
In front of me, but
You may be heading this direction. It's not that much. But
No.
the charge is a lot for migrating, but there's potentially the option of, I don't know how hard it is with
Forwarding.
Zarafa,
Yeah.
extracting,
Right.
like say when you open your new Gmail inbox, you want to have a year's worth, like you just do the year. And everything older than that, we extract that and can store it cheaply, not using Gmail.
sure, and that would be very possible.
Okay. Gotcha.
Right. There are options to archive older emails. There would also be options for some people in the town who have an email may not need access to old emails whatsoever. They may be able to start green, as the term was put to me. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
and to clarify, you're the guy for this because you're the compliance guy. I don't think there are any rules that require us, since we are officially using email as our archiving purpose, to keep archives in email for outside of us. It's a shorter amount of time. It's not like what you have to archive here.
I don't think there's any requirement for emails. It would be a matter of operational continuity and access to information and all that could benefit from having them. But so we're literally just, some of this just today, actually.
Yeah,
Came
absolutely.
in. So as of tomorrow, the departments will be getting a memo from me saying, you need to look at this and see how quickly and to what extent we can pare this down.
So if you'll ask a specific question on that, this would be from local government.
Okay.
Can you just get because they're storing this on their servers. I mean, because you're talking about less than a terabyte of information. Can you just get a document dump? That takes them 3 hours. The documents are for the most part named. I'm saying if you're willing to lose the link from email to that, and then you do searches, and it's relatively easy even to have everything within that OCR'd automatically. You don't ever have to touch it. So then you can actually do word searches within, specific searches within that.
Okay.
And then you go clean. You can also let department heads know if you have specific email that, you think you probably need. Most people don't need stuff for more than a year or two anyway. It's not like you're going back that far. they can forward that kind of stuff to a new account. There's just all kinds of ways you can do that. So
Okay.
I just wonder if that's a compromise, because I'm sure local government wants to try to make some money on the way out.
Right. Well, and I will say I have not gotten those numbers yet from local government, so I don't want to. These were numbers from Gmail and from their preferred partner.
Right.
I will ask if you don't mind after the meeting if we could get together just so I know the proper wording to
Okay.
take to these.
Yeah.
That would be
You
very
see where I'm
helpful to
coming
me.
from on that?
Or if either any of you have any other questions you'd like
Is
to
is
ask.
it possible, I don't know if this would be I would be happy if, like with Charlie talking, I can't remember that specific thing that we're a citizen. or
The
somebody-
municipal planning,
We-
or the
yeah, you
municipal
talking to
landscape
the tree board,
organization.
tree board.
Yeah, I'd
I
be
would
glad for
happy
one of you
if
guys.
Dan sits and represents us.
Yeah, me too.
If he's okay with that, and meet, even in meet, I don't know if
Yeah,
that's
I've talked to these
allowed,
guys
but-
some, and what I told you guys earlier, that was realistic. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be spending very much time
yeah,
in
okay.
town at all.
Well,
I'm
then
in
I-
another state for
I
most of
could do it.
this year.
I'm not here, I don't
Yeah.
think I'm as knowledgeable as Dan, but.
I'm just trying to be honest and careful because I'm slammed.
Well, I'd be happy for one of you guys, whoever thinks they can do it, to work with Sam
I would
and
welcome
help
the,
you
welcome
with the
input and
knowledge
help.
that you need to know,
Because I will fully admit that my knowledge in this subject is limited. I have researched as best I can and tried to get good advice from people, but I would welcome the help if you all would like to participate in those conversations.
does anybody oppose having Andrew be the
I
point
don't.
person to meet with Sam on this?
That sounds great.
Okay. All right. Well, you're authorized to do that then. I was curious why we need to put the email or the website on hold.
Quite frankly, just because of time, the time it takes to try to manage a complete shift in both. I did not have that time to do both simultaneously with all of my other duties. I'd be happy to jump back on that as soon as we can sort of move this email thing forward. But that would be the reason,
Yeah.
quite frankly.
I was kidding Sam before this meeting about all he needs is a cart and duct tape on his glasses before he starts to look like the AV guy for the high school. That's not really his position. He's a compliance officer. He's not the technical guy. And I think we have to be careful to not assume that's who he is. He's smart and he can get it, but that's not what he's trained to do. And kind of early on, I was wondering if what you shouldn't do is get someone to come in and facilitate this process. And that's a short-term contract that you enter into with somebody. And if you think that would move that forward, the money that we set aside in the budget last year for the email transition, and I know it doesn't really work this way. I can hear Carol over there going, that's not how budgets work. But if we were looking at the money we set aside, maybe we should consider hiring someone to aid in this transition. This is something to put it out there if you really want to have it happen, because you don't have that expertise on staff, and that's reasonable that you don't.
Of course we want to have it happen. I mean, so if that's what we need to do, I mean, that's,
Would it, like a freelance, is that what you're suggesting? Somebody that could,
No, I mentioned at
Work
one
on a
time,
temporary-
one of the guys that works for the city mentioned at one time he might be willing to contract to help.
And I have spoken with them. They're the ones who put me in touch with the representatives from Google. I would be happy to reach back out to him to see if that was something he was interested in. He didn't necessarily represent it to me in that way. I don't know if it may have been the difference in
Might have
from when
changed.
those discussions started to
That's right.
now. But I would be happy to reach back out.
maybe you
and see if
should,
that's
and I mean,
something
if he
he's
can't, maybe he
interested in.
knows somebody else professionally
sure.
that might be interested, and you
Google's
could get
giving
a
us their
proposal.
contractor on this, right? That helps you through the process.
I'm sorry.
Google has directed you to a contractor that helps you with the process.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's who we would pay. Google just wants the
They just want the
long-term-
business.
Right.
Yeah,
Really, all
monthly.
we would do through Google is pay the monthly fee
Yeah.
per mailbox.
So they're providing a contractor.
They're recommending.
They're recommending a contractor.
Well, maybe, yeah.
We
maybe-
don't, we
maybe
are
that-
under
if-
no
If we think
obligation.
that that's the right solution, we don't need to look at other.
I think
Right.
I think that's the right
Thanks, yeah.
solution.
We would not be under an obligation
think
to
we
use
will.
the contractor they have recommended. However, it is they are someone who Google obviously prefers
And how,
But that is
what are the,
at our discretion.
what
or
do
at
we need
your
to do to
discretion.
get to that decision point? As to, what do you think we need to do to get to the point where we say, let's hire this contractor to take us to the next step?
I think we just need I mean, given the fact that these are tools used primarily by staff each and every day, I think their input on the usability of a certain product might be the best indicator of how we move forward, whether they, I think we may, I'm not sure, but we may need to have a group perform, show us exactly what they offer. So it's similar to the website. I don't know these things. I'm just throwing things out. I don't know exactly how this decision ultimately, ultimately you all will have to vote to approve unless it, well, I guess
don't
that
know.
may not even
I
be
don't
Well,
true.
if
I don't know if that's ours. Yeah.
we're talking about maybe two different things, choosing to go to Google
Right.
for our email and getting input from staff versus deciding to use this contractor to facilitate the switchover. And I think that question is answered by what we can accomplish to get our data level down to where there's a reasonable cost associated with it. And then while we're doing that, also talk to people who have used them, hopefully in as many local government settings as possible, to get recommendations. If we get them down to where it's not a bid situation and we can get multiple recommendations and we can
Yeah.
afford it, then I think we're in a position to move forward with it.
Is this not, I mean, when I was at my law firm, we were getting case management software that we'd never had before. So, and we had a IT person, but we had 3 or 4 different vendors who provided software come in and give us a presentation and say, this is what our software does. This is how easy it is to use. They went through it. And then, we decided, well, this seemed to be the best one. Let's go with that one. Is that not how it works? I mean, are they not giving you presentations and saying, look how easy
And
it
we
is
are
to
so
use?
small that.
And I would think too that in some of those cases, those may be sort of more of a one-stop shop. They create the software, they facilitate the software, they manage the software, they implement the software. In this case, you have you have Gmail, but then you may have 10,000 different people who could implement it. And so I guess, making the decision to go to Gmail versus Microsoft Exchange, something like that, may be simpler than making the decision of who to move forward with implementing that. That would probably be cost-driven.
All right. So local government can't say, here's a demonstration about how our email works.
I'm sure they could.
And then
we
Google
certainly
can
set
say,
that
here's
up.
how our email works. And we can say, we like Google better than local government. So let's go with Google. And then we find a contractor to implement.
I'm sure we could. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, that seems easy enough.
But-
Kind of get the department heads together to see how it all works and say, everybody say, I like this one better. Maybe I'm oversimplifying it or not understanding the process, but that seems like if I were looking at different email systems, I would want to see, how does this one work and how does that one work? And I'll choose one of them.
We also just need to make sure, and it does sound like there may be other options, but we just need to make sure that whatever we choose, we're able to still utilize the data that we have now, the emails that we have now, and move those. There is a compatibility question. But again, I'm happy to work with people who are more knowledgeable than I in these technical issues to determine whether other options exist that I'm unaware of.
One of the things that we, will have to consider in the whole scenario is the cost. And we started working with Google because a lot of local governments have moved in that direction. So that's where we started, and we're trying to determine what the changeover cost is going to be, what the long-term cost will be, nail all that down. We're still looking for information from local governments, see what costs will be there. And then from there, you look at what the options are and what features they provide and all that. So that's part of the process. But I think there's a timing scenario with understanding what the costs are associated with each. And then you're in a better position to say, okay, well, what's that going to get us? As opposed to kind of going at it, the other way around. So it's not that we're not planning on getting demonstrations or getting staff to test them or anything else. We're trying to nail down look at what the most probable scenarios are, options are, look at what the likely cost is, and then based on that, see what that gets us and what staff has to think of it.
Okay. Can we get another update at the next meeting? You think that's doable?
I will do my best. Yeah, I mean, I can definitely have you an update. I may not be able to have all the information you talked about, but I will get everything I can between now.
All right, that's good. Thank you. All right, next is the Rainbow Lake Park Survey update.
Just to let you know that I've gotten information, heard back from most council. So I'm going to ask Garrett to go ahead and pull that together and get it posted this week. Wanted to see what your thoughts were on time frame in terms of how long you would like to see that survey up. I'm thinking at least a couple, 3 weeks would be appropriate, but then from there we'll develop this plan for the charrettes. But that's pretty much it.
Any thoughts on that? Anybody? You're asking for us how long to put it up, or?
I mean, I think that's what we're probably looking at. If there's any differing opinion, I think that would be sufficient time.
I would think 4 weeks, just
4?
in thinking about surveys that I've previously done that are extensive, because this is a good, solid, it's well-written. So I would like to have at least 4 weeks so that we can do several PR pushes out to the citizens so that we can have, and then we can keep track of it. We can figure out, how many people have, after 2 weeks. And so what else do we need to do to publicize it? Is there something else to do to get more responses? So I would think 4 weeks.
Sounds good to me.
Good enough.
Can we post something at Rainbow Lake to just kind of encourage the actual users to go and take the survey?
I would think it would be great to have a thing, I can't remember the name of it.
QR
code, and put just QR
yeah.
codes all over the town.
Yeah.
And that would be, put it on the
That'd be so
website.
cool.
Put it at Pruitt's, put it at the schools.
Yeah.
I think SurveyMonkey gives you that.
There's folks in and out of places all the time. I think we should engage the leadership of our faith organizations that are in the town to let people know. I mean, there's lots of ways to publicize it, more than just putting it on the website. And I think it would help to have some time to see what else we need to do to get as
I
many
know
as
that
possible.
You're right, like the churches up here have e-newsletters and things like that, maybe.
And I'm sure they'd be happy to do it if it's legal. I don't know. So I'm just saying.
Yep.
All right, great. Thank you. We're on to the manager's report.
I'll keep it brief given the hour. Had multiple meetings the last couple of weeks, including the Joint Economic Community Development Board. Got a lot of good information on upcoming grant opportunities. Went to TPO Executive Board meeting for mayor, and Friday, Sam and I attended a Human Resources Roundtable that was done by MTAS up in Cleveland. Got a lot of good information and good interaction there. Spent quite a bit of time pulling together some possible scenarios that would relate to the pay study and how different things look based on where we are now. Then I have a conversation with Mr. Thompson today, and I expect that we will have something pretty final within the next day or so, hopefully tomorrow. That being the case, I wanted to ask council your desire on if we deal with that as part of the next meeting, or if you want to go ahead and try to schedule a special meeting to address that and then continue budget discussions.
I thought that we were going to have the personnel committee look at that.
We are.
Has a meeting been scheduled for them?
It has not yet.
Okay. I think it'd be better for the personnel committee to take a look at it, and maybe they can give us some recommendations or some thoughts
That's
on it.
right. That's the plan.
Okay. Before we talk about it. So I don't know when the personnel committee is going to meet, but let's talk about it after they meet and give us some thoughts.
Okay.
Does anybody have any other ideas on that?
Makes sense to me.
Is that what you were asking?
Well, the personnel committee will look at it and
Yeah.
make a recommendation. I expect that will happen prior to your next meeting.
Okay.
Whether or not that's the case, the main question was whether you want to incorporate this discussion into a regular meeting or have a special meeting to focus on this and continue budget discussions.
It could be a pretty long topic.
I almost think a special meeting would be maybe beneficial, because I think it will be. This is a really, really important issue for our town. And
is.
we've been waiting to get the information and to hear from Personnel Committee. And I'm really looking forward to being able to really see numbers so that we can know what we as a town council need to do to support the town employees, because they are selfless in so many ways. So I would prefer to have a special meeting so that we don't have to feel rushed with a whole agenda.
With other business.
Yeah,
probably a good
that's just
call.
my thought, but
Yeah, that's a good idea. And you mentioned possible scenarios. I'm assuming you're talking about like how we get from A to B, maybe a few different ways.
Right, and just looking at if pay study aside, what would it look like this year if we did a 3% raise or a 4% raise, and looking at what other communities are doing. For instance, the county is doing a 4% raise with a minimum of $2,000. So basically, anyone making under 50 is getting 2,000. Anybody over 50 is getting 4%. So looking at that and seeing how that translates to us, so that when we get the final numbers on the pay study, we have something to compare that to. We see this impact, well, they're saying we need to do this. Well, how does that compare if it was more of a normal year and we kind of followed suit? So trying to make sure we have as much information as possible.
Does the personnel committee, I mean, can they do that too? Can they like work with you to come up with scenarios? Is that part of their role?
Generally has not been in the past.
Okay.
Again, when we go to the personnel committee, I think beyond what the pay study provides, my job will be to have those different scenarios in place for them to consider and see what makes sense.
Okay.
They can certainly recommend, if you have scenario A and B, they can recommend scenario A2 or whatever.
Yeah, okay.
They can make their own decisions, but I think staff's job is to provide them with as much ready information as possible to consider. That's what we're doing.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. Anything else?
No, sir.
All right. Do we have any communications and reports from the council or the mayor?
I'll just mention to you when we get back on website, I saw Walden. They did something, so we should probably ask them. They have one now, or they redid it, and it looks pretty good. So maybe they found a good solution.
Anyone else? Reports from committees or boards? All right. There's a BZA meeting tomorrow and Planning Commission on Thursday, so I'm sure at the next meeting we'll have some reports.
We didn't have any business.
Oh, all right. I haven't seen that email yet. Never
I
mind.
have a question about that for Harry. What is our obligation? I know I had a citizen contact me who had something they wanted before the Planning Commission because it's something they're trying to purchase, and the Planning Commission would need to, make a decision on whether or not a property could be divided. And I also know, like with the, I'm not trying to get a discussion started about BZA. I encourage everybody to come to the BZA meeting tomorrow night. It's a very important meeting, and you should all see it. It's worth your time.
6 o'clock tomorrow night?
Yeah.
But as far as us responding in a timely manner to people who have business before the town, is it different with the different things? So like, I know with BZA, it's tied up a person's property for a while. The one for planning commission, they thought they were going to get to come, but they're not. They're gonna have to wait another month before it comes forward. How does,
Well, there are time frames for when things have to be presented. For example, to the planning commission prior to the next planning commission meeting.
okay.
Um,
So if somebody presents something within the time frame, and I don't know that this person did, they might not have, they might have just, but if they do present it in the time frame to get it before the next planning commission, but the planning commission then doesn't meet for whatever reason.
Well, it ought to come before the planning commission at the next scheduled meeting, which is the same time every month. Now, occasionally planning commission and probably BZA, everybody will cancel hearings sometimes or cancel meetings because they can't get a quorum. But short of something like that, there are regularly scheduled planning commission, BZA, every month.
Yeah, I would assume that if we had one thing on there at the planning commission, we would go forward, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, they shouldn't say, no, we're not going to meet because we only have one matter scheduled.
Yeah.
And whether that matter's scheduled or not is another question. If it's, and I don't know what you're talking about and don't want to get into.
Kind of doesn't matter at this point, yeah. That's why I'm just trying to get general, because I don't know.
If something like that, if it's a subdivision or something like that that has been reviewed and gone back and said, Garrett reviews it and sends it back to him, says, these are some issues here you're gonna have to figure out. And then it doesn't come back for a week or more, and you're coming up on the planning commission meeting just a few days away, then the assumption would be that it's not reasonable to get that in, get it reviewed, until it comes in a format and a condition that it's ready to go to planning commission. It's not going to become an agenda item.
So that could be the case, even if somebody it's not the scenario you're talking about. If somebody has something, somebody's mic, yeah. Even if somebody has something they knew they would like to bring before the planning commission and they request to come before the planning commission in time, let's assume, and I'm not assuming this one did because I don't know the details on it, the planning commission should meet.
Correct. I mean, there's a lot of assumptions in there, but yeah, if things are done timely, so that everything is there in whatever the time period before the next planning commission, they should meet.
Okay.
All right.
Now, I know there have been some, I think as a planning commission has been canceled a time or two because they didn't have a quorum. But a meeting was scheduled and planned, and then, fairly late in the game, they discovered they wouldn't have enough people.
Yeah, and again, I don't know the timeline specifics about this case, but the citizen was upset because I think they did it right, whether they did it or not. I don't know. I haven't researched that. But the answer they got was it's traditional for the planning commission to not meet around the holiday. And I just don't know that we can do that.
I think we've
They
had
didn't get
situations
that
where we've picked another
answer from me.
day.
No,
if
they
they're-
didn't get it from staff. So.
Haven't we, like, if the Thursday falls on a holiday, we've picked, why don't we meet the next week or something like that? I don't think we've canceled meetings just because it's a holiday. I don't think, but anyway, that's a hypothetical scenario. Hopefully,
No, this
whoever
one's
it
not,
is.
This one isn't hypothetical. I mean, it really
Well, I
happened.
would
I'm just trying to find
like
out.
to know the details after the
Yeah,
meeting.
I'll tell you. Yeah.
All right.
This is a case, by the way, I think I'm doing what we talked about. I think I should talk to him privately about that. These are the kinds of things I'm talking about. Some stuff doesn't need to be all hashed out here until we get the private stuff. And so I apologize for my passion. I don't apologize for my passion. I apologize.
shouldn't.
I apologize if I'm breaking decorum.
You're fine.
The decorum matters to me.
No need to apologize.
But passion, but
Anyway, just, that's where I'm coming from.
All right, no need to apologize to me. You're fine. Anyway, do we have anything else? All right, next agenda, or next meeting is July 12th. So this one